So the more we discuss the pastimes of Krishna, it becomes newer and newer. So that is what is. So he's thanking first Vidura. He's praising that he's praising his family. He says because of this dynasty, this whole thing is so glorious because this dynasty is very glorious. They serve Lord. That is why they are full of devotees. They serve the devotees, and they are not attached to the impersonal Brahman. There is one given in the purport. And then he says, because you asked this question, so ham nunam shulla sukhaya dukkham mahakatanam विरमाय तस्य प्रवर्तये भागवतं पुराणं यदा साक्षात् भगवान् ऋषिवः सः that I of the human being shulla very little sukhaya for happiness dukkham distress mahat great gatanam entered into viramaya, that means for mitigation. Tasya his pravartaye in beginning Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, Puranam, Vedic supplement, yet which Aha said Sakshat directly Bhagavan Rishivi unto the Lord, unto the sages. So let me now begin speaking on Bhagavat Puran. Bhagavatam Puranam. So let me start speaking on it. Spoken to the great, which was directly spoken to the great sages by the personality of God. He has spoken this to the great sages, Bhagavatam itself. So who has spoken? Vaibhav has spoken. He has written, he has spoken. So in this way, Lord himself has spoken. And this is for the benefit of those who are entangled in extreme miseries for the sake of very little pleasure. So this is for all the human beings. For very little, the Rikshula Sukhaya, they are experiencing Mahat Dukkham. So Viramaya. So for mitigating that, let me speak this from the beginning. Pravartaya, Pravartaye, Pravachan, Pravartaye. This word comes from Pravartaye, is from the beginning. Let me speak. That means I want to speak whole, not just Rasli. In this, you should understand, Bhagavad Puranam is not just you select some topics. That is, okay, selecting the topic, speaking on it. But it is not just restricted to that topic. It's a whole topic right from the beginning. That means right from the creation, you should understand. Not just Krishna's very confidential pastimes. So this has also been expressed here. So from the beginning, I'm going to speak to you this. So this inquiry was done to Lord himself. So who has done that? We'll see third verse. Done Mataji, first two verses.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Maitrey Uvacha Satsevaniyo Batapuru Vamsho Yallo Kapalo Bhagavat Pradhanaha Babhuvite Hajita Kirtimala Pade Pade Nutnayasya Abhikshanam. The great sage Maitreya Muni said to Vidur, the royal dynasty of King Puru is worthy to serve the pure devotees because all the descendants of that family are devoted to the personality of Godhead. You are also born in that family, and it is wonderful that because of your attempt, the transcendental pastimes of the Lord are becoming newer and newer at every moment. Purport. The great sage Maitreya thanked Vidur and praised him by reference to his family glories. The Puru dynasty was full of devotees of the personalities of Godhead and was therefore glorious because they were not attached to impersonal Brahman or to the localized Paramatma, but were directly attached to Bhagwan, the personality of Godhead. They were worthy to render service to the Lord and his pure devotees. Because Vidur was one of the descendants of that family, naturally he engaged in spreading wide the ever new glories of the Lord. Maitreya felt happy to have such glorious company as Vidur. He considered the company of Vidur most desirable because such association can accelerate one's dormant propensities for devotional service. Text 2. Soham nirnam kshila sukhaya dukkham mahadgatanam viramaya tasya pravartaye bhagavatam puranam yada sakshat bhagavan rishibhyah. Translation. Let me now begin speaking on the Bhagavata Puran, which was directly spoken to the great sages by the personality of Godhead for the benefit of those who are entangled in extreme miseries for the sake of very little pleasure. Purport. The sage Maitreya proposed to speak on Srimad Bhagavatam because it was specially compiled and traditionally comes down in the disciplic succession for the solution of all the problems of human society. Only one who is fortunate can have the opportunity to hear Srimad Bhagavatam in the association of pure devotees of the Lord. Under the spell of material energy, the living entities are entrapped in the bondage of many difficulties simply for the sake of a little bit of material happiness. They engage in fruitive activities, not knowing the implications. Under the false impression that the body is the self, the living entities foolishly relate to so many false attachments. They think they can engage with materialistic paraphernalia forever. This gross misconception of life is so strong that a person suffers continually, life after life, under the external energy of the Lord. If one comes in contact with the book Bhagavatam, as well as with the devotee Bhagavata, who knows that the Bhagavatam is, then such a fortunate man gets out of the material entanglement. Therefore, Sri Maitreya Muni, out of compassion for the suffering men in the world, proposes to speak on the Srimad Bhagavatam first and last. Hare Krishna.
आसीनमुद्यां भगवन्तमाद्यं सङ्कर्षणं देवमकुण्ठसत्त्वं विवित्सवस्तत्त्वमतः परस्य कुमारमुख्या मुनियोन्वतिच्छन् आसीनं पूर्व्यां. So, seated in the bottom of the universe, Bhagavantam, into the Lord, Adyam, the origin, Sankarshanam. There is Sankarshana, Devam, the personality of God, and Akuntra Sattvam, undeterred knowledge, Vivitsavaha, being inquisitive to know, Tattvam Ataha, truth like this, Paras regarding the supreme personality of God, and Kumar, the boy saint, Mukhyaha, headed by Muneha, great sages, Anvapuchan, inquired like this sometime ago, being inquisitive to know Sanat Kumar, being inquisitive to know Sanat Kumar, the chief of the boy saints, accompanied by other sages, inquired exactly like you about the truth regarding Vasudev, the Supreme, from Lord Sankarshan, who is seated at the bottom of the universe. In Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Bhagavatam also it is going on, Anantam, about Ananta. It is the Supreme Personality of God, Ananta, who is the head of the Supreme Personality of God, who is the head of the spiritual master, is the head of the Gurus. The Sankarshana is going to speak about Vasudeva because he is inquired from Sankarshana. And Sankarshana is the expansion of Vasudeva and is going to answer. And where is Sankarshana? Is at the bottom of the universe. Why? Because he's holding all the universe on his head. The Viva is in the bottom. Samevadishyam bahumanayantam yadvasudevabhidhamam anti pratyagritaksham bhujakoshamisha dunmi nishat unmilayantam vibudho vidhodayaya swam, that is himself eva thus Vishnu situated greatly Malayantam esteemed yet that which Vasudeva, Lord Vasudeva, Abhidham by the name, Amananti acknowledged, Pratyag Vrita Akshaha, I settled for introspection, Ambuja Kosham, lotus like eye, Ishat slightly, Unmila Yantam opened Vibudha of the great learned sages. Udayaya for the sake of advancement. At the time, Lord Sankarshan was meditating upon his Supreme Lord, whom the learned esteem as Lord Vasudeva. But for the sake of the advancement of the great learned sages, he slightly opened his lotus-like eye and began to speak. So Sankarshan, he meditates on Vasudeva. His work is meditating on Vasudeva. Just because it is good for everyone, especially it is for the advancement of the great learned sages, he opened his eyes and he began to speak. Third canto. Okay, read. Aruna, read. Phone is getting repaired.
Hare Krishna. Text 3. Asinamurvyam bhagavantamadhyam sankarshanam devamakunta sattvam vividsavastattvamata parasya kumara mukhya munayonva prichan. Translation. Some time ago, being inquisitive to know, Sanat Kumara, the chief of the boy saints, accompanied by other great sages, inquired exactly like you about the truths regarding Vasudeva, the supreme from Lord Sankarshana, who is seated at the bottom of the universe. Purport. This is in clarification of the statement that the Lord spoke directly on the Srimad Bhagavatam. When and unto whom the Bhagavatam was spoken is explained herewith. Questions similar to those put forward by Vidura were asked by sages like Sanat Kumara and Lord Sankarshana, the plenary expansion of the Supreme Lord Vasudeva answered them. Text 4. Swamev drishnyam bahumanyantam yad vasudevabhidamananti प्रत्युद्धृताक्षाम्बुजकोशमीश दुन्मीलयन्तं vibudhodayaya. Translation. At that time, Lord Sankarshana was meditating upon his Supreme Lord, whom the learned esteem as Lord Vasudeva, but for the sake of the advancement of the great learned sages, he slightly opened his lotus-like eyes and began to speak. Hare Krishna.
Wait, Prabhuji, my Mangala has started and Yadre Swajata Kalapay
Prishanta Sharanopadanam.
Padmam Yad Archantayahi Rajakanyah Sapre Manana Vadivya Varartaha Sardhuni Udaha by the water of Ganga Ardhaihi being moistened Swajata bunch of hairs Kalapahi situated on the earth on the head Upas Prushan Taha by Saraswat touching Charana Upadhanam the shelter of his feet, Padamam, the lotus shelter, Yat, that which Archanti worships, Ahiraj, the serpent king, Kanyaha, daughter, Saprema, with great devotion, Nana various, Balidhi, paraphernalia, Varartaha, being the zealous of husbands. The sages came from the highest planet down to the lower regions through the water of Ganga, and therefore the hair on their heads was wet. They touched the lotus feet of the Lord, which are worshipped with various paraphernalia by the daughters of the serpent king when they desired good husbands. Okay, suddenly this has been spoken. Let us see. Because for the advancement of the learned sages, he has opened his eyes and he is going to speak. And these sages, from where they have come? From Ganga. That is how the hairs are wet. And then they are worshipped by the daughters of the serpent king, and they desire good husbands. Further. Okay, this also we read. Aruna, continue.
Text 5. स्वर्धुन्युदाद्रै स्वज स्वजटाकलापै रूपस्पृशन्तश्चरणोपधानं पद्मं यदर्चन्त्यहिराजकन्याः सप्रेमनाना बलिभिर्वरार्थाः. Translation: The sages came from the highest planets down to the lower region through the water of Ganges, and therefore the hair on the heads was wet. They touched the lotus feet of the Lord, which are worshipped with various paraphernalia by the daughters of the serpent king when they desire good husbands. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Ganges water flows directly from the lotus feet of Vishnu, and its course runs from the highest planet of the universe down to the lowest. The sages came down from Satyaloka by taking advantage of the flowing water, a process of transportation made possible by the power of mystic yoga. If a river flows thousands and thousands of miles, a perfect yogi can at once transport himself from one place to another simply by dipping in its water. The Ganges is the only celestial river which flows throughout the universe, and great sages travel all over the universe via the sacred river. The statement that their hair was wet indicates that it was directly moistened by the water originating from the lotus feet of Vishnu, the Ganges. Whoever touches the water of the Ganges to his head surely touches the lotus feet of the Lord directly and can become free from all effects of sinful acts. If, after taking bath in the Ganges or being washed of all sins, a man guards himself against committing further sinful acts, then certainly he is delivered. But if he again takes up sinful activities, his bath in the Ganges is as good as that of the elephant who nicely takes his bath in a river but later spoils the whole thing by covering himself with dust on the land. Hare Krishna.
Next. But if he again takes up sinful activities, his bath in the Ganga is as good as the of an elephant. Kunjara Shauchavat. That is a shloka. Again, we do the same mistake. मुहुर्गृणन्तो वचसानुरागस् खलत् पदेनास्य कृतानि तज्ज्ञाः किरीटः साहस्रमणिप्रवेक प्रद्योतिदो प्रद्योतितोद्यामपणासहस्रम्. Muhu, again, Grudhanta, glorifying, Vachasa by words, Anuragaha, with great affection, Skhalat Padena, with symmetrical rhythm, Asya, of the Lord, Pratani, activities, Tad Gyaha, those who know the pastimes, Kiritaha, helmets, Sahasraha, thousands, Mani Praveka, glowing effulgence of the valuable stones, Pratyorta, emanating from Uddama raised, Pana, goods Sahasram, thousands. The four Kumaras headed by Sanat Kumar, who all knew transmitted pastimes of the Lord, glorified the Lord in rhythmic essence with selected words full of affection and love. At that time, Lord Sankarshana, with his thousands of raised roots, began to radiate and effulgence from the glowing stones on his head. They asked also, they know also. It is not that they were not knowing. They asked and they were glorifying. One who asks about the Lord, that means he knows about the Lord, he wants to know more about it. Simple. That is how they were all glorifying Lord. And here on the head there are glowing stones and it's radiating. Proktam Kilai. I was just looking at Ranganatha. On his head, who is there? Ananta is there. Ananta Shesha is there. Vigraha is there. Ananta Shesha is there. So Ananta Shesha, that is Sankarshana, is there down. His Lord is also there. Where then? I was thinking, where is Lord? He is holding all the universes on his head, and he is also giving a cushion to the Lord, a bed cushion to the Lord. His Lord is also sitting with him only. Lord is also sitting with him. Lord is also hearing his own glories. Lakshmi is also there. And they are all below all the universes. So it is not below or under. It is the Shrota. Understand it nicely. It is the Shrota. Karanadakshayi Vishnu, Garbhadakshayi Vishnu, Shirodakshayi Vishnu. They are the source. Karanadakshayi Vishnu, from where everything emanates. So Mahasankarshan expands into Karanadakshayi Vishnu. So it is Sankarshana who is holding Karanadakshayi Vishnu, who is glancing. And from there all the universes begin. So it is not, we should not even immediately understand the two dimension. Our thought processes only go till that, below, under, above, left and right. So they are all in the two dimensions. But they are beyond dimensions, beyond even 64 dimensions. Expansion, glancing, what is all this? It's all beyond. Proktam kilaita bhagavattamena vivrutti dharmabhiratayatena sanat kumaraya sa chaha prushtah sankhyayanayanga vrataya. Proktam was said, Kila, certainly this Bhagavattamena, by Lord Sankarshan, Nivritti, renunciation, Dharma Abhirataya, unto one who has taken these religious goals, Tena, by him, Sanat Kumaraya, unto Sanat Kumar, Sahahi, Cha also Ah said, Prushtaha, when inquired of, Sankhyayanaya, unto the great sage Sankhyayana, Anga, my dear Guru, Dhrutavrataya, and to one who has taken such a vow. So Lord Sankarshan thus spoke the purport of Srimad Bhagavatam to the great sage Sanat Kumar, who had already taken the vow of renunciation. Sanat Kumar also in turn, when inquired of by Sankhya Muni, explained Srimad Bhagavatam as he had heard. That is how Guru Shishya Parampara, when you hear, you just have to speak. Whatever heard has been spoken. So Sanat Kumar, not only whatever heard, you hear, you understand, you understand and then speak. It is not just hearing. Even Sutta Goswami also says, whatever I have heard, I'll speak. Not only what I have heard, I am speaking, whatever I have digested also. Whatever understood, whatever I have realized. You cannot just note down every word and then speak as it is, no? You have to realize a subject. And then don't cross the limits. You can explain the same subject with your own examples, some examples here and there, whatever you have heard. Personal examples you can give, but you should not cross the boundary. The tattva should be the same. Of all the tattvas, we have to see that Guru tattva, Krishna tattva, Dham tattva, Radha tattva, whatever tattvas, we have to not cross the boundaries. The tattvas should be maintained, but realization can happen with our understandings and we can speak. So this is how the parampara system is there. So Sankhyayan started speaking, and who heard? Literally, she said, my spiritual master heard. That is Parashar Muni heard. And even Brahaspati also heard. Let us see this also words. Syankyayana paramahamsya mukhyo vivikshamano bhagavat vibhuti jagadasosmat guruvenditaya parasharayatha brahaspate pateshcha. So Sankhayana Paramahamsaha Mukhyaha is the chief of all transcendence. Vivakshamana, he was reciting Bhagavad Vibhuti, That is the glories of the Lord. Jagata was explaining at the time, Sahadi, Asmat of me, Gurave, my spiritual master, and I followed. Parasharaya of the sage Parashara, Ata Brahaspati, even Brihaspati also. And then Parashara Muni was advised by Pulastya Rishi. And then this was taught to Maitreya Rishi. So that will be the next verse that we'll see later. So Raksha Mataji, read all these 3 verses.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
The way
Look.
Bhagavatam starts, 1 minute, this is the way Bhagavatam starts. You introduce the parampara. So you introduce the Prabhupada, you introduce your guru. You cannot just say, I am speaking, who am I? My spiritual master, his spiritual master. Then in this way, introduce the parampara. Whenever new people sit and hear, first we have to introduce the parampara. Vidura is asking Maitreya, he could have started directly. Sage Maitreya could have started directly. But you see from where it is starting, Sanat Kumar inquiring to Sankarshana. Sankarshana is speaking to Sanat Kumar at the time, who in turn gave this knowledge. Sanat Kumar gave to Sankhya, Sankhya gave to Parashara, Parashara gave to Maitreya. That means one should always understand that while speaking, he should first respect and glorify the parampara. Because without parampara, we are insignificant. We don't have anything. We don't have any knowledge. It's Prabhupada who has written all this. That is why we are able to read. Or just imagine, just the Bhagavatam verses are given to us. We look at it with blank face. Prabhupada has taken so much of efforts, one word. Or what Sanskrit, we know, even Sanskrit scholars, they become failures when they read, because it is not just knowing a subject, going depth into the subject. The depthness is taught by the depthness of the bhakti what they are having. Bhagavat have bhakti. Bhakta Bhagavat have bhakti. That is why they are Bhakta Bhagavat. Then only they can speak on Grantha Bhagavat. So it is Prabhupada who is equipping, like equipments are given, and like that he is giving us so much of knowledge. And with that we are trying to study the subject. Okay, Raksha, read.
माताजी इन सब में भगवान भी साथ में ही है ना, वासुदेव भगवान.
हाँ तो है ना,
हाँ.
उनका ग्लोरीज गा रहे तो वो तो वहीं बैठ के सुन रहे हैं.
यस
उनका
यस.
काम क्या है, वो वहां बैठ जाएंगे, लेटे हुए बैठ के सुनेंगे. अच्छा बोलो बोलो अनंता बोलो.
So wonderful explanation,
भगवान
really.
का जो अनंत ग्लोरीज है, भगवान अनंत है, भगवान की लीलाएं भी अनंत है, और उन्हें अच्छा भी लगता है. किसको अच्छा नहीं लगता है अपने ग्लोरीज सुनना. तो ये सब गुण कहाँ से आता है, भगवान से तो आया.
Very true, Mataji. Shloka
So,
6. मुहुर्गृह्णन्तो वचसानुराग कलत्पदेनाशिकृतानि तज्ज्ञा किरीटसहस्रमणिप्रवेक प्रदोतिदाधाम फणा सहस्त्रम्. The 4 Kumaras, headed by Sanat Kumara, who all knew the transcendental pastime of the Lord, glorified the Lord in rhythmic ascent with selected words full of affection and love. At that time, Lord Sankarsana, with his thousands of rays hood, began to radiate an effulgence from the glowing stone on his head. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai ho. The Lord is sometimes addressed as Uttama Shlok, which means one who is worshipped with selected words by devotees. A profusion of such a selected words comes from a devotee who is fully absorbed in affection and love for the devotional service of the Lord. There are many instances in which even a small boy who was a great devotee of the Lord could offer excellent prayers in the choicest words of glorification of the pastime of the Lord. In other words, without the development of fine affection and love, one cannot offer prayers to the Lord very suitably. Shloka 8. Proktam kilit भगवत्तमेन निवृत्तिधर्माभिरताय तेन सनत्कुमाराय स चाह पृष्ट Sankhyayanayam Translation: Lord Sankarsana thus spoke the purport of Srimad Bhagavatam to the great sage Sanat Kumar, who had already taken the vow of renunciation. Sanat Kumara also in his turn, when inquired by the Sankhyayan Muni, explained Srimad Bhagavatam as he had heard it from Sankarsana. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai ho. This is the way of Parampara system. Although Sanat Kumara, the well-known great saintly Kumara, was in the perfect stage of life, still he heard the message of Srimad Bhagavatam from Lord Sankarsana. Similarly, when he was questioned by Sankarsana, Sankhyayan Rishi, he spoke to him the same message he had heard from the Lord Sankarsana. In other words, unless one hears from the proper authority, one cannot become a preacher. In devotional service, therefore, 2 items out of the 9, namely hearing and chanting, are most important. Without hearing nicely, one cannot preach the message of Vedic knowledge. Sloka 8. साङ्ख्यायन पारमहंस्य मुख्यो विवीक्षमाणो भगवत् विभूतिः जगात् सुसम्यं गुरुवे निविताय पराशरायात बृहस्पतिश्च. The great sage Sankhyayan was the chief among the transcendentalists, and when he was describing the glories of the Lord in terms of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is so happened that my spiritual master Parashara and Brahaspati both heard him. Hare Krishna.
Most important thing which is spoken is, if you hear nicely, then only that is a qualification to speak. So hearing, great attention, and hearing quality can come only when you serve. It is not just hearing. Or nowadays you on the channels, you get many informative classes. Especially Facebook, YouTube. You can just pass your time very nicely. Whole day. There's so many information. Goes on. But by that information, one cannot. Hearing, it's not just hearing, it is serving. Hearing should accompany service. Without that, it's impossible to understand the mood of our spiritual master. Provachamayam sadayalurukto muni pulastyena puranamadyam soham tavaitat kathayami vatsa shraddha lavedniya nityamanuvrataya. Provacha said Mayam unto me, Sahani, Dayalu, kind-hearted, Mukta, aforementioned, Muni, sage, Pulastian, by the Pulastian. Chase Pulasya Purana Madhyam, the purpose of the Puranas, Saha. Also I, Tava unto you at this, Kathayami, shall speak Vatsa, my dear son, Shraddhalave, unto one who is faithful, Nityam is, Anuvritaya, unto one who is a follower. The sage Parashar was advised by Pulastya. He spoke to me the foremost of the Bhagavatam, that is foremost of the Puranas, that is Bhagavatam. I shall also describe this before you, my dear son, in terms of my hearing, because you are always my faithful follower. Okay, in this way, Parashar Muni spoke to Maitreya Rishi. Vrindavan Lila Mataji, read. Voice is not heard. Voice is not heard.
Am I supposed to speak, Mataji? Between there was some disturbance here.
Yes, yes.
Yes, Mataji. Sankhyanah paramhamsya mukhyo vivakshamaano bhagavat
That is slok number 9.
Sorry. Text 9. Provacha mahyam sadayalurukto munih pulastena purana madhyam soham tavaitat kathayami vatsa Shraddhalave Nityam Anuvrittaya. The great sage Parashar, as aforementioned, being so advised by the great sage Pulastya, spoke unto me, the foremost of the Puranas, Bhagavatam. I shall also describe this before you, my dear son, in terms of my hearing, because you are always my faithful follower. Purport. The great sage of the name Pulastya is the father of all demonic descendants. Once upon a time, Parashar began a sacrifice in which all the demons were to be burnt to death because of his father had been killed and devoured by one of them. The great sage Vasishtha Muni arrived at the sacrifice and requested Parashar to stop the deadly action. And because of Vasishtha's position and respect in the community of sages, Parashar could not deny the request. Parashar, having stopped the sacrifice, Pulastya, the father of the demons, appreciated his Brahminical temperament and gave the blessing that in the future he would be a great speaker on the Vedic literatures called the Puranas, the supplements of the Vedas. Parashar's action was appreciated by Pulastya because Parashar had forgiven the demons out of his Brahminical power of forgiveness. Parashar was able to demolish all the demons in the sacrifice, but he considered demons are so made that they devour living creatures, men and animals. But why on that account should I withdraw my Brahminical qualification of forgiveness? As the great speaker of the Puranas, Parashar first of all spoke on the Srimad Bhagavat Puran because it is the foremost of all the Puranas. Maitreya Muni desired to narrate the same Bhagavatam he had heard from Parashar, and Vidur was qualified to hear it because of his faithfulness and his following the instructions received from superiors. So Srimad Bhagavatam was being narrated from time immemorial by the disciplic succession, even before the time of Vyasadeva. The so-called historians calculate the Puranas to be only a few hundred years old, but factually the Puranas existed from time immemorial, before all historical calculations by the mundaners and speculative philosophers. Hare Krishna Mataji.
So many speak Bhagavatam, but it should be authoritative also. And that can come only when it is heard through disciplic succession. यदा पृतं विश्वम् इदं तदासि यन्निद्रया मीलितयत् अहीन्द्रतल्पे दिशयान एकः कृतक्षणः स्वात्मरतौ निरीहः. So at the time when the three birds were submerged in water, Garbhodaksha Vishnu was alone, lying on his bedsheet, bedstead, the great snake Ananta. And although he appeared to be in slumber, in his own internal potency, free from the action of external energy, his eyes were not completely closed. Aplutam means he submerged. Tada, in the Uda water, submerged. The three world is submerged in water. Idam this, tada at that time. Asit it so remained, yet in which Nidra and slumber, Amilitaha, he has closed his eyes. No, he has not closed his eyes completely. Nyamilayat, not completely closed. Ahinidraha, the great snake. Ahindra means the great snake. Ananta, his name is Ahindra. Talpe, on the bed of Adhishayana, lying on Eka, alone. Kritakshanaha, being engaged. So Atmartau, so he's enjoying his internal potency. And Niriha, without any external part of external energy. But still creation is not happening. Everything is just सोनंत शरीरेऽर्पित भूतसूक्ष्मः कालात्मिकां शक्तिम् उदीरयानः उवास तस्मिन् सलिले पदे स्वे यथा नलो दारुणी रुद्धवीर्यः. So like that, just like the strength of fire within fuel wood, the Lord remained within the water of dissolution, submerging all the living entities in their separate bodies. He lay in the self-invigorated energy called Kal. Saha means Lord, Ananta means within, Sharira in the transcendental body, Arpita kept. He kept all the material elements, Bhutaha, Sukshmaha, Kalatmikaha. He kept all them. Udriyamanaha, that means invigorating. Then Vasa residing Tasmin Devi, Salila in the water, Pade in the place, way. Yatha, as much as Anilaha fire to the firewood, the same way, submerged in. So, though he has remained within the water of resolution. It is like the fire in the firewood. When you see a wood, what do you immediately remember? You remember fire. Because there is a fire within that firewood which is not seen. When you see a wood, immediately the thought process comes as a firewood. Yesterday I had gone to Goshala, many of the woods were there. Immediately what you remember? The fire within that firewood. The same way, though there is resolution, Lord is submerged within all the water. The Lord is there, but Lord is peacefully residing there as a fire in the firewood. He is enjoying in his internal potency. Still, the creation has to happen. Okay, these two verses are already.
Hare Krishna. Text 10. Udaplutam vishwamidam tadasid yannindrayami litagring nyamilayat ahindra talpe dishayan ekah kritakshana swatmaratau niriha. At that time when the three worlds were submerged in water, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu was alone, lying on his bedstead. The great snake Ananta, and although he appeared to be in slumber in his own internal potency, free from the action of external energy, his eyes were not completely closed. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Lord is eternally enjoying the transcendental bliss by his internal potency, whereas the external potency is suspended during the time of the dissolution of the cosmic manifestation. Text 11. Sonta sharirerpita sukshmaha कालात्मिकां शक्तिमुदीरयाणः उवास तस्मिन् सलिले पदे स्वे यथा नलोदारुणिरुद्धवीर्यः. Just like the strength of fire within fuel wood, the Lord remained within the water of dissolution, submerging all the living entities in their subtle bodies. He lay in the self-invigorated energy called Kala. Purport. After three worlds, the upper, lower, and middle planetary systems merged into the water of dissolution. The living entities of all the three worlds remained in their subtle bodies by dint of the energy called Kala. In this dissolution, the gross bodies became unmanifest, but the subtle bodies existed, just like the water of the material creation. Thus, material energy was not completely wound up, as in the case in the full dissolution of the material world. Hare Krishna.
Chaturvidanam cha sahasramapsu swapan
Udhiritaya swashaktya.
mute. Kalakhya sadita karma tantro lokanapitan dadrushe swadehe. So Lord lay down for 4,000 yuga cycles in his internal potency. And by his external energy, he appeared to be sleeping within the spot. When the living entities were coming out for further development for the fruitive activities actuated by the energy called Kala Shakti, he saw his transcendental body as conditioned. Chatu, 4 Yuganam, for 4 millennium. That means 4,000 yuga cycles. What is 4,000 yuga cycles? 4,000.
One Manvantar.
Hmm?
One Manvantar, Mataji. One Manvantar is getting over.
One yuga cycle is how much? Whole one yoga cycle is how much? 43,20,000.
Yes. Then the
The
next.
Lord laid down for 4,000. It should be only 1,000, no? For 4,000. That means this is the biggest dissolution. After Brahma's, see, for Brahma, one night is how much? 1,000 yoga cycles.
Yes.
So this is actually, we should understand that this is the, even now Brahma is also not there, nothing is there. So 4,000 yoga cycles. It is not the dissolution which happens when night of Brahma starts.
Mhm.
So for 4,000 yoga cycles, he is in the water. Lord is sleeping, peacefully, dreaming and sleep by his own internal energy. And then afterwards, by the Kala Shakti, that is how he impregnates the Mahatattva by his Kala Shakti and Jiva Shakti. So by the Kala Shakti, the Jiva Shaktis are also coming out because of the Kala Shakti, and the Kala Shakti also, because they have to further fructify their karmas. At that time, he sees, oh, my body is bluish. He appears bluish in color. The transcendental body of Krishna. This is all in the Vishnu Puran. Kala Shakti is mentioned as avidya. That means that ignorance, avidya. And that is how this whole material world functions because of this energy, avidya energy. Okay, next verse. तस्यार्थसूक्ष्मभिविष्टदृष्टेरन्तर्गतोऽर्थो रजसा तनीया गुणेन कालानुगतेन विद्ध सूक्ष्म्यं सतदा विद्यत नाभिदेशात्. So the subtle subject matter of creation on which the Lord's attention was fixed was created by the material mode of passion, and thus the subtle form of creation peers through his abdomen. Now the whole creation is now, creation has to happen now, so passion has to be infused. If passion is not infused, what they will do then? Creation happens only by passion. Like you love to do it. What is passion? You want to do it, you love to do it, you desire to do it. So that desire, that passion, mode of passion that enters. तस्य his artha subject sukshme subtle abhinivashtaha drishtahe of one whose attention was fixed antagataha internal artha purpose rajasaha the mode of passion of material nature tantyan very subtle gunena by the qualities kala anugatena in due course of time with the agitated susyan generating tada then abhidyata pierce through navi region. From that, okay, till here only will be good. Two verses Raksha Pradeshika.
Yes, Mataji. चतुर्युगानां चतुर्युगानां च सहस्रमाप्सु स्वपन् स्वयोदीरितया स्वशक्त्या कालाख्यया सारितकर्मतन्त्रो लोकान् पीतान् ददर्शे स्वदेहे. The Lord laid down for 1,000 cycles of 4 yugas in his internal potency, and by his external energy, he appeared to be sleeping within the water. When the living entities were coming out for further development of their fruitive activities, executed by the energy called Kala Shakti, he saw his transcendental body as bluish. Purport by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Ho. In the Vishnu Purana, Kala Shakti is mentioned as avidya. The symptom of the influence of the Kala Shakti is that one has to work in the material world for fruitive results. The fruitive workers are described in Bhagavad Gita as mudhas or foolish. Such foolish living entities are very enthusiastic to work for some temporary benefit within perpetual bondage. One thinks himself very clever throughout his life if he is able to leave behind him a great asset of wealth for his children. And to achieve this temporary benefit, he takes the risk of all sinful activities. without knowledge that such activities will keep him perpetually bound by the shackles of material bondage. Due to this polluted mentality and due to material sins, the agitated combination of living entities appear to be bluish. Such an impetus of activity for fruitive result is made possible by the dictation of the external energy of the Lord Kala. Shloka 13. तस्यात् सूक्ष्मा विनिविष्टदृष्टे अन्तर्गतोऽर्थो रजसा तनीयान् गुणेन कालानुगतेन विद्ध तुष्यंस्तदाभिधत नाभिदेशात्. Translation: the subtle subject matter of creation on which the Lord's attention was fixed was agitated by the material mode of passion, and thus the subtle form of creation pierced through his abdomen. Hare Krishna.
So here we'll stop. On Thursday, we'll start with the early and try with this chapter. 7 only will start, but sharp 7. Okay?
Mataji,
Yeah.
Mataji, here in 12th verse, it is written that due to this polluted mentality and due to material sins, the aggregate combination of living entities appeared to be bluish. Is this bluish complexion is being referred to the living entities or to the transcendental body of the Lord?
The creation is nothing but avidya.
Yes.
Creation is nothing but the exhibition of avidya.
Yes.
Avidya is nothing but poison.
Hmm.
Who refers to the poisonous thing? Simple. It is referring only to the, not say directly poison, the word poison, but yes,
Mhm.
avidya is referring to avidya.
So it has got nothing to do with the bluish complexion of the Lord.
No.
Since all the entities are going inside.
Because body color is transcendental.
Okay.
It's completely
Of course, it's transcendental, yes.
So he paint like
Oh.
the actors come on the stage and they paint.
Uh-huh.
So he's appearing like that. Oh, his appearance, the Vidya is coming out, Kala Shakti is coming out. So for that exhibition, that color seems to be like. So now when this color is like that, it is shown. Here it is for Krishna, it is transcendental. Our
Yes.
parijan will be material.
Yes. Yes.
When you look at the sun, you have a different purview. But sun is Krishna's energy.
True.
So in two aspects, one is relative, one is so many heart coming out.
Yes, Mataji, I loved the explanation that you gave just now. So I
So
sent the
nice,
hearts.
Mataji. It looks so nice, really.
No, this one sentence I think is very significant when you said that for the Lord it is transcendental, but for we jivas, it's not so because they are like, as it has been mentioned here, they have all the sins and polluted mentality. Yes, for two, it is two different. So beautiful. Thank you, Mataji.
Patitanam Pavani
Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo. Intakoti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you, Mataji. General pranam to all.
Jai Krishna.